Hello, everyone, and welcome to Makai-World Reviews. The last review of this year, for this section of my channel at least, has been a wild and mostly horrible ride for me this year, so I'm looking towards positivity for the new year. But, we are finishing up holiday movies with a fun one, where we look at the Christmas/monster movie entitled Gremlins. I'll be looking at Gremlins 2 eventually, as I like that movie a little bit better, but we need to start somewhere. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and let's get to it. Gremlins, directed by Dante, a sort of B-movie savant and a man with a good understanding of satire. With this, The Howling, The Burbs, Police Squad, and Erie, Indiana, showing us that very thing. Sort of understated director for all of his flaws. Written by Chris Columbus, no, not that one, but the one who has worked on fine films like The Goonies, Adventures in Babysitting, both Home Alones, worth note, Mrs. Doubtfire, and a mess of Harry Potter films. So in reasonably good hands as far as writing goes. Starring Zach Galligan, a guy who I always considered to be the sort of prototype for the Jason Biggs, Josh Radnor type of white milk toast castrati who inexplicably gets women well beyond his scope. I don't mind the troupe, I just think he is one of the best to do it, and I, for one, am excited to see him return for the up-and-coming Gremlins cartoon. And Phoebe Cates, the quintessential girl next door, made famous from that scene from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, but she has a nice little career with that movie, this one, and Drop Dead Fred, which will easily keep her in the zeitgeist for a long time. She essentially retired to take care of and raise a family, and that's nice. Release date is June 8th, 1984. What came out the same week? Ghostbusters, my favorite movie as a child. I literally watched it several times a week when I was like 3 to 6. Movie I still love. It's Ghostbusters. Perfect mix of comedy, strangeness, some genuine heartfelt moments, and the perfect cast for all of it. I recently watched Afterlife, and it was okay. It was a mix of absolute nostalgia, bait, cash grab, and a love letter to the franchise. I hate Finn Wolfhard, though. And Top Secret, Weird Al's favorite movie, and Val Kilmer actually being funny. Everything about this movie shouldn't work, but yet it kind of falls into place perfectly and was genuinely a funny movie that I enjoy. Peter Cushing is in it as well. Going over to the plot, we meet Randall, inventor extraordinaire in his own mind at least, in Chinatown to peddle his wares and find a gift for his son. He ends up finding an odd animal he desires to buy, though the shopkeeper, Mr. Wing, refuses to sell it, but his grandson is a little more industrious, selling the odd creature for a hefty price. Not long after we meet his son, Billy, a simple man in a simple town. He works at the bank, he has the hots for oddly attractive girl next door, Katie, and he loves comics. Well, he also loves his new animal, and we learn it's a creature called a Mogwai, whose name is Gizmo. But it comes with a string of rules. No sunlight. It kills him. Do not get him wet, and don't feed him after midnight. So we know how this is going to do, as neighbor Corey Feldman gets Gizmo wet, which causes more Mogwais to pop out of his back, including one with a mohawk called Spike. But these others don't seem quite to have the disposition Gizmo does. Still, they are tiny and seemingly harmless enough. Billy does give one up to the local middle school science teacher. That's the only person who knows anything in town, I suppose, to see what's up with him. Well, it's not long after till some chicken and a sandwich cause the after-midnight munchies, causing the Mogwai, save Gizmo, to cocoon themselves in xenomorph-style eggs. As you can imagine, this goes poorly as larger green monstrosities come out and begin terrorizing the town, bulldozing houses, launching old ladies from their stair carriers, flipping cars, chewing local priests, and forcing Katie to serve them at the local bar. She is a bartender there, so it's not out of her purview. After the cops fail spectacularly, Billy, Kate, and Gizmo decide to take things into their own hands, starting with blowing up the local movie theater while the Gremlins watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which they love. This kills the majority of the Gremlins, save Spike, and the final showdown begins in the department store. Billy decides to take the physical approach, with Gizmo and Katie trying to figure out a backup plan, but Billy does not fare all that well against Spike. With his friends, he manages to seemingly come out on top, and in the end, while Spike tries to create more gremlins in a fountain, the sunlight finally kills him in dramatic fashion. In the end, the town is in ruins, with unknown deaths having occurred. Mr. Wing comes to Billy's family and takes back Gizmo, saying they were not ready for the responsibility, and admonishes them for getting Gizmo hooked on television. Okay, so what about this movie? Let's start where we always start. Directing and cinematography. This movie is a love letter to media. Older movies are constantly playing on TV. Comics like Conan the Barbarian and House of Mystery litter Billy's room. We see movie posters for things like The Road Warrior. This is a fan's movie. And it is progress like someone who is a fan, in a good way. It's easy to fall into the trap of throwing too much at the script, at the screen, because you want to get all your cute little references in. But this doesn't do that. It's well paced. It's well developed. It's not overly long. It's not overly self-indulgent, I guess is what I'm saying. And the strength of that is the look of it. It's a small town that seems believable. Nothing is over the top. All the places are places I would believe exist here. The overall look of the film is nice, solid, it's simplistic. And it has to be. The times they try to do too much, there's like an army of gremlins walking down the street, are the worst parts of the film because it looks bad. Whereas the puppets used in the other parts are convincing in their own right. So this movie knew its limitations for the most part, and that's a good thing. Moving over to the characters, and this is not quite a strength of the movie, as we meet a lot of people, but let's be honest, pretty much everyone here is a cardboard cutout of a character that's supposed to exist in a movie like this. Billy and his family, Billy, despite being the main character and the person who is seemingly we know the most about, he likes comics, and Kate, and is nice. That's it. He has some tenacity when he has to, but he's pretty much, I said earlier, milquetoast small town guy. His dad has a little more going on, a hapless inventor, comes with some cool ideas. I like the bathroom buddy, personally. But he's the kind of absent-minded, and he travels in the film more of a punchline than anything else. The mom has really nothing going on, but she's tough, man. She kills the first gremlin she fights with a modified blender. Let me tell you, that was a good scene, so she gets some props. Kate is sweet, she's supportive, she's pretty, she's able to deal with high levels of stress and hold her own. She's just as boring as Billy. Her two best moments are when she is serving the gremlins at the bar. She's like pouring drinks and lighting cigarettes. Then she kicks some of their ass. And when she tells the story of how her dad died trying to come down the chimney dressed as Santa, I guess it was supposed to be a powerful moment for her, but it was just hilarious. Mrs. Deagley is presented as an important character. She's a landlord of sorts who owns a lot of the houses in town, and she's a battle axe and tyrant when it comes to that, with a sour face and Karen attitude. She mocks Billy's dad. She tries to put a mom with her kids out in the cold. She has this incidental walking music that is a take on like when a fat guy would walk in a silent film that is just really funny. But despite all that, she doesn't do anything. She does get killed in a great way. The gremlins change her stair lift to make it go real fast, and she flies out the window. Jonathan Banks, Mike from Breaking Bad, is the younger sheriff in this, with hair. Just nice to see him. I like the guy. Dick Miller is a cantankerous neighbor who is part of his house bulldoze. He doesn't do much in this movie, but we will see more of him in the sequel. I'm a fan of him as well. He's just in so much. The Howling, The Burbs, Night of the Creeps, Little Shop of Horror, lots of Roger Corman stuff, and so on. We lost him in 2019, which sucks. Corey Feldman is here too for a cup of coffee. I just wanted to point that out. It has lots of characters with some decent actors or more that virtually do nothing of real note. So let's talk about the Mogwai and counterparts. Gizmo is adorable, instantly iconic. Puppeteering was excellent on him, and Howie Mandel gives his voice a lot of charm to it. The cooing, the singing, the purring. He is still beloved to this day despite only having 2 real films, and is very likable, though the rule for taking care of him made little to no sense. No sunlight, can't get them wet. How would they exist in nature? And the food one after midnight. Midnight where? Does it start at Greenwich Means Time? I mean, listen, better people have made these points. You all know how stupid these rules are, but they are what they are. A device to get to the next stage of the movie. Try not to think about it too much, though they are stupid. Now, the Gremlins have a great design. They're a mixture of 50s horror and 80s punk. They are green and slimy and gross. They have all this personality, and they dress differently, and they're hard drinking and hard fighting, just mad little things. We don't see enough of this personality, but we do see as entertaining. They do kind of get killed unceremoniously. They were all, save Spike, watching Snow White. That seems a bit odd. And of course, their leader Spike, voiced by Frank Welker, who has done many famous voices in movies and cartoons. You probably know him as Fred in various Scooby-Doo media to this day. Spike is neat. He's a good antagonist, as he has some sense of survival instinct, unlike the other Gremlins. And his last fight scene with Billy is very interesting and entertaining. The music, it's as over the top as the rest of the film, with a mixture of Christmas music, music made for the film, and like I said, some incidental music thrown in. I wouldn't call it particularly entertaining on its own, but it works in capacity for the film pretty well. Overall, this is actually a movie I consider to be fairly all ages. Depending on your kid, of course, there's some violence and gore, but it's fairly tame. It's mostly green blood and mostly off-camera deaths. I think as long as your kid understands fiction from reality in some small way, you can watch this for the holidays and get a kick out of it. It is funny and silly and stupid. It does have some tension and a good enemy. It's not a great movie, but it's fun, and that's all it has going for it. Harking back to the days of Roger Corman of cinema for all of us, and as a Mystery Science Theater fan, I like that. Well, that was the end of my holiday movies. I hope you and yours have a good one. A good Hanukkah you celebrated, a good Christmas, a good nothing, a good time to drink. You all deserve it, and I appreciate all of you. This has been a hell of a year for me. It's had mostly downs, but I think working on this channel got me through a lot. That's because I had support from a small but growing fan base, so thank you. Please come back in January. I'm going to be looking at films with more popular remakes, starting with the 1932 film Scarface. This has been Dante Makai, Master of Minds and of Men. Happy New Year, and goodbye.